Hey everyone, Matt from Workshop Tinkers. So, I was gonna do a 1 year look back at my MPCNC printer. I know I did a couple of videos quite some time ago about this thing when I was first setting it up. So I was gonna do, my X number of months later complaints slash review, whatever. I'm still gonna do that, but I'm not gonna show it running. Sorry about that. As I was prepping for this one, I was starting to go into, oh, you know how much, watch how bad this is. Look how much slop is in this. Look at how bad. And then I realized, yeah, most of the slop is because I broke the support. Anyways, that would be because I pushed it too hard. I know it's my fault. I was using this for engraving bench backs. Putting words into benches and stuff like that. It also explains why when I try to switch to a V-groove bit, why I had such horrible slop in it, because I'm relying on just this collar that you can't see down here, this one here, and not this collar. So as soon as my printer's done printing with the project it's currently working on, which you can probably hear, I'm going to be getting a replacement to this because I want to not fix this CNC, but use the CNC to build a different CNC that, well, I'd really like to be able to do aluminum. So the spindle will get replaced. I'll use it as a proper just roto zip. I mean, those things are awesome. I've taken this thing off 4 or 5 times now to use it as a normal roto zip. But first things first, let's talk about some of my complaints about this. First one is I made it too big. My fault. Should have stuck with the 1 foot by 1 foot or so that was recommended on the MPCNC documentation and all that kind of fun stuff. But outside of that, conduit is nowhere near rigid enough. It feels it to your hand when you're just shaking things and I can't get it to bend. And then when you actually have these things activated, and these are just NEMA 17 sized motors, Chinese ones, just whatever, they're not extraordinarily powerful, but these are strong enough to bend conduit. Especially these middle conduits, even though they float kinda, and they have the carriage here that can move in all 2 directions, it still bends. And the reason it bends, I found, is because you have 2 NEMA 17s, one on each end of the central conduit. I want to say it's like the core XY style, or I keep thinking of it as the plotter style, where you have crisscross and it floats on the crisscross. And they're NEMA 17. They have not that much force. I accidentally, one time I was sitting here with my hand, it ran into my hand, and really before I could react to get my hand out of the way, it started skipping steps. And mind you, I don't have, well, I've taken out most of the micro stepping in these things, so they're sticking to major steps and had the amperage turned up pretty high. They should have plenty of holding power, plenty of go power, because I was wanting to be able to push this thing through wood at 1/4 inch depths, going as fast as it can with a two blade flute. I've been using just router bits instead of anything fancy. This is actually a 3 blade V-bit groove, whatever, doesn't matter. Anyways, talking too fast, but whatever. The NEMA 17s are not powerful enough. Tension, due to zip ties, not strong enough. I've broken many zip ties. Actually, most of these have 2 or 3 zip ties through them. This one does not. You can't see any of the other ones. But, yeah, just not powerful enough. Good in theory for lightweight work. I'd say if you want to use this and put a knife cutter or a pen in here, you're probably fine. For a router, no. Laser, too slow. Doesn't work. That's my main thoughts. So I'm trying to figure out my next steps. Obviously, I want to get away from this XY design. I want a moving, most likely the moving carriage style, though that keeps me in router territory. I've been looking into trying to figure out how to build a CNC mill, but what I've come to the conclusion of so far is it's probably cheaper to buy one used. The problem is I don't have room for one. So yeah, CNC mill, not going to happen. I would like to get a CNC router that can do aluminum to a point, though. That's my goal. I really have some aluminum projects I want to get it done, and this can't handle it. So back to criticisms. The two NEMA 17 steppers on either end of the central shaft, both directions, they're not linked in any way, shape, or form other than they both go to the same set of pins on the driver board, which in my case is just a Ramps 1.4 printer controller, because that's what I have laying around. I don't have any CNC software for this. I'm using Simplify 3D with the printer controller panel, and I'm loading G-code that I generate out of Fusion 360, out of the CAM part of Fusion 360. Well, at least I did. They've had an update recently, which I'm having to relearn the software. It's fantastic. Really fantastic. Anyways, deep breath, talk slower so people can understand me. I get it. I don't want the Core XY. And I've been looking at designs where, even though it has the sliding central tram, I guess, back and forth on still two separately controlled, you can't say, two separately controlled rails. Somehow they're either, one, ball screws, so much more torque and moving power, or, well, more moving power because more steps, etc., etc. Or two, they actually have a connection somehow, physical, between the two, if they're belt driven especially. So I have seen it as well with rack and pinion style, with the central shafts to go along to keep them in line. I want something like that, though I'm still doing research. I was looking at one called Root 3. It's another heavily 3D printed, but it's more rigid. It does use more plywood. It does use more. It uses a square tube instead of rounds. It uses 1-inch square tube, a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker. If you get that in, I'm trying to remember the wall thickness. I want to say 1/8-inch wall. It's actually pretty rigid. Still only uses 1 each on the sides, but it uses 2 across the center, and the whole thing moves back and forth. Decisions. I'm thinking what I'm going to get is some 20-30 T-slots, and then do a linear rail on top, linear rail on the outside. Have, you know, and you can't see my hand too well, but have it as an L over that, and have the tram across the center, carriage, whatever you want to call it. The Z-axis is actually the easiest thing to figure out. They're pretty much all the same. Much like this, except no plotter rails. Yeah, that's my thoughts on MPCNC. It's good if you're doing light work. I've done some really good stuff in foam. It does just fine. It's pretty quick. It's pretty snappy. This thing is reasonable RPMs. Not a lot of power, though, so if you're cutting anything like aluminum or even hardwoods, you need to do a lot of feeds and speeds adjustments. Well, feeds at least. You got to take smaller passes. You got to be kind of aggressive with small passes, but you can't take a lot of material off of it all at once. I'd rather have a proper spindle. Even a Chinese spindle is probably better than this. But as I said, for foam, for a first time, make it smaller than a 2 foot by 2 foot, maybe a 2 foot by 1 foot, or even just a 1 foot by 1 foot. Something that big is probably more than plenty, and that's 2/3 of the amount of tubing, and it probably increased the rigidity by leaps and bounds, massive amounts. Now, these are things I should have known by doing more research, but I liked the design. It was mostly printed. I had all the parts except the conduit itself, and I actually had to get some more bearings, but who doesn't need more bearings? Anyways, hopefully I will start doing videos soon of figuring out how to build my own CNC from scratch. I'm thinking 20 2060 T-slot or 2080 T-slot for the main rails, and 2060 across the span. And I'm thinking rectangular linear bearings, not the round ones, so it can just slap right on the T-slot and get the extra rigidity from that. I'm kind of leaning away from getting like 12 or 16 millimeter round rod, just because of the complexity. But we'll see. Anyways, hopefully I'll start doing more videos soon. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll start posting again. If you have ideas for videos, especially 3D printer ones, let me know. I don't do a lot of reviews because this is, remember, just stuff that I have projects on. I have the one printer that's working. The 101 Hero, I have one working. Well, they're both working, but it's too much work to keep them working. I've got the one good printer, the Wilson 2. So I did see a request for review of a can't remember what the name of it right now, but anyways, I'm trying to talk one of my friends who has one into letting me borrow it for a week or so I can make a video, but he prints on it constantly. I can't get him to have time for me to grab it. Alright, well, I'll stop talking. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a great day. Build something, man. Come on. See ya.